Welcome back, adventurers, to another episode of the Corner of Story and Game. As we get ready for Gen Con, which is right around the corner, I've invited a couple of old guests to come back and talk about their experiences at the big convention. And in this episode, I'm honored to have Richard Dansky return to the mic. Richard is a distinguished franchise narrative director, renowned for his exceptional contributions to game narratives and world building. So today we're going to get Richard's take on Gen Con and what he's up to. Richard, thank you for joining me.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me back.
My pleasure. We're going to talk Gen Con. Gen Con's coming up right away here. I'm going to try and get this episode out before Gen Con, obviously. So I've been talking to previous guests who play a big part of Gen Con, or are very active at Gen Con, or have gone a lot of times to Gen Con, and you were right there on the top of my list, along with Mr. Forbeck and a couple others. So let's dig into your history with Gen Con. When did you start going? How many times have you gone? What do you look for when you go? That kind of thing.
My Gen Con history is actually a little spotty. I went a bunch of times when I was working for White Wolf. This was back when it was in Milwaukee. And those days were absolutely insane. It was a very different convention then. And, you know, there were the rituals. You'd go to the German restaurant the first night you're there. You'd go into the Safe House bar. You know, you'd walk up there and say, I'm looking for a safe house, and they would let you in. I'm sorry if I spoiled that for people, but it was a much smaller con. I remember running a Wraith game that had been triple booked in a booth on the floor of the Omni, which was the basketball arena where the Bucks played. And it was a giant echo chamber with, all these booths set up with all these games going, and it was deliriously insane. I also remember one of our guys accidentally backing the White Wolf truck up and running over another car in the parking lot of our hotel. I don't know how they got out of that one, but I do, if I might tell a slightly off-color story.
Yeah. How about?
I remember one night, one of the years I was there, just sort of wandering around the hotel at 3 a.m. and talking to a member of the hotel staff. And I said to him, you must hate this con because it's all crazy people. He said, oh, God, no. You are our best con all year. We love you. You are neat. You are clean. You tip well. You behave yourselves. You should see it when the police chiefs and the firefighters get here. Oh, my God. They're giant hanging and calling strippers and, yeah.
Jeez.
Wow. That's very interesting.
Wow.
So that was, but I loved Gen Con Milwaukee, and that was like 95 to 99 I went, so 95, 98, and really enjoyed it, had a great time there. And then I left the industry, went over to video games, and I didn't actually go back until 2016 when I was working on Wraith 20th Anniversary Edition, and I got asked to be part of the Writer Symposium. And so I came and did the Writer Symposium and did some talks on fiction writing and some on video game writing and had a great time. And then I don't know what happened, but I never got asked back again by that administration until 2022 when some new folks took over the symposium, I believe. I got invited and I was all psyched to come back and got COVID, which was disappointing in the extreme. I literally got it at a rest stop on the New Jersey Turnpike on the way home from Nikon 2 weeks before Gen Con. I had this glorious thing set up. I was going to go to Nikon, and then I was going to go to Scarcely Care, and then I was going to go to Gen Con, and had the best 2 convention weeks of my life. And no, I spent it at home with COVID with no air conditioning.
Oh, no air conditioning too. Ugh.
Yeah, that was kind of icky. I did have a fan, but the fan broke.
Jeez. Wow. That's some bad luck.
Yeah. But I did make it back last year, and that was glorious and a really wonderful time. Obviously, the show has metamorphosed. It has gone kaiju-sized from when I used to go. It is very much a different show, but the Writer Symposium was a total blast. The people putting together did a great job. The attendees were wonderful, thoughtful, asked great questions, and it was a real pleasure to be part of. And now I'm coming back this year.
Right on. I'm curious, has the con had significant influence on your career trajectory at all? Has there been events or connections or conversations that have happened there that steered you in a certain way or opened up opportunities?
That's a very good question. I think what it has been very good for is rekindling relationships. And I am less interested in an actual, okay, I'm going to talk to this person. They're going to see if I want to write for them. And more, hey, 20 years ago, I dug your stuff and you said you dug mine. And let's talk and, see what we're up to and see if, someday down the road, there's a chance to be creative together. And so, getting back in touch with folks I knew in the tabletop space has been a real joy for me, both 2016 and last year.
Nice. That's a vibe I get talking to people who go to the working professionals who go to the convention. Is it's not like you're there intentionally to network and trade cards and look for work. You're just talking to friends and building relationships and rekindling relationships that you mentioned. And some down the road work could come out of it, and quite often does. But it's not one of those, you think, the big video game conventions where people are there specifically to meet certain people and do speed dates and pitch, and it's not one of those kind of conventions from what I gather.
It is not a meat market, no. And, I like it that way. I prefer, I sat on a bunch of panels last year with people whom I had never met, but whose work I admired. And that was a wonderful opportunity. And that opened the door to conversation with them, which led to me learning a bunch of stuff and, opening the door to further conversations. And that, that was worth the price of admission right there.
Nice. Okay, well, this year, as you've alluded to, you're engaged in a variety of activities. You're doing portfolio reviews for tabletop designers, I believe. You're speaking at the symposium, as you mentioned, talking about world building, one of my top 3 areas of interest. So that sounds exciting. I guess, can you elaborate on what attendees who are going to catch you somewhere in the show, what can they look forward to? What are you looking forward to presenting, or without giving too much away, of course?
Long-winded anecdotes. That is specialized in long-winded anecdotes. Now, I actually have to double-check my schedule because I've got Congregate and Saga this weekend. I got Nikon next weekend, and I'm trying to survive those 2 before I even really start prepping for Gen Con. My modus operandi at any conference is to be generous with my time. I will happily talk to anybody about anything they want to talk to, as long as they are polite and respectful. And, come to me with your questions, come to me with your concerns, ask me about anything. If I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know. If I do know, I will tell you, and I will tell you honestly. And that is, I feel that's important. I've been writing games in one form or another for 30 years at this point. And I feel it's important to pass on the things I have learned, both about how to do the tasks and about how to do the job, which are 2 very different things.
I like it. Very kind of you to pass that along, to share that.
Well, people were kind to me when I got started, and the least I can do is respect that by paying that forward. I will say, if you're on LinkedIn, twice a week I do a piece on game narrative that is, free, and I like to think some of it's useful. People seem to like it.
You might be underselling that. They're pretty impressive. There's a lot of information there, and they're fun to read. They're a good read. So,
well,
you're a pillar of the narrative LinkedIn community, I think, personally.
Well, thank you. I had to sneak the armored polar bear reference in the last one, but
always surprising.
Yes. Bad art for the win.
Well, Mr. Dansky. Okay, well, portfolio reviews. Speaking of generosity, sitting down and giving reviews for portfolios. These people, these young designers are coming to the convention looking to learn, looking to meet people, looking to, let's sum it up, break into the industry, although that phrase is becoming way overused. But I guess what advice, and I even hate asking that, but like, what should these young designers be aware of coming to Gen Con looking, you and I have had this conversation privately before, of what should these young designers be looking for when they go? What are their expectations? What kind of goals or plans should they have? How much, like, where's that balance?
The best thing they can do is ask good questions. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. If you're going to talk to somebody, do a little research beforehand, know what they have done, know what they are known for, know what they are experts in, and ask questions that they can give you the answers to that you can't get from a 5-minute Google search. Demonstrate that you value their time, and they will give you back far more than you asked for. And that is, that will unlock the treasure chest of knowledge in every conversation. Obviously be polite, don't butt into a conversation somebody's clearly having with somebody else, but do introduce yourself, do put yourself in context. Say, hey, I'm trying to break this through. I have a game. I was wondering, based on your experience with villains and vigilantes or whatever, just to go for the deep cut there, what do you think system that does this? You'd be surprised how good an answer you get from people who are generous, and most of the people in this industry really are generous and thoughtful and kind people, because the jerks wash out after a while because nobody wants to work with
them. Very true. Very true. And that's true to every industry, but especially in creative ones. So we mentioned you're doing a world building talk, writer symposium, talking narrative. This is what you do so well. What excites you the most about discussing these topics at Gen Con with these people? What makes the discussions around narrative design, writing, game design interesting and different at this particular convention?
Two things. One, there's a whole lot of smart people there. And I always want to learn from smart people. I know what I know, and I know what I know. I don't know what they know, and I want to know what they know. And I realize this is starting to sound like an Abbott and Costello routine, but let it pass. No, I would love to hear other people's takes on things that I've been wrestling with, on questions that I've had, that I may have found my own solutions to, but that I hardly think are the only solutions to. So by all means, get the smart people in there and let me be a psychic sponge and listen to them when we're on panels or just shooting the breeze in the break room or wherever. That is of incredible value to me. And the other thing is, I love talking to people who are fresh and new and excited about this stuff, because their energy excites me. And they have perspectives that I don't have. They grew up in a world that I do not know. I'm a Gen Xer. I remember landlines. I remember when Pizza Hut was actually good pizza. So I was there for hair metal from the beginning, and I want to know what they think. I want to know about how they want their stories to be told. I want to know what they can teach me in return for me teaching them what I have learned. And I don't look down on them for not having had 20 years of experience or whatever. I am genuinely interested and excited by their new perspectives. And maybe some of those perspectives are ones that I tried and abandoned based on experience. And I can say, hey, I know you think this, but have you thought about these consequences to them? And maybe save them some heartache and some pain. But if they come up with something genuinely new, I'm all over that. And I am grateful for it.
Do you still get a chance? Will you still get a chance to go and actually take in some of the forums, the talks, workshops? Or are you so busy you don't really get a chance to be a fly on the wall?
My schedule's not so busy that I can't do that. Though I confess, what generally happens is I am headed to a panel and I run to somebody in the hallway and we have a discussion there. And for my entire career, I have always strongly felt the hallway discussion is better than the panel discussion. The panel, 9 times out of 10, will be on YouTube. You can catch it later. But that hallway conversation will never happen again.
I've heard that said about GDC a lot, is you can find the talks later. You're not going to refine those sparked conversations.
Exactly. Yes. And I believe that with all my heart.
That makes 100% sense. Ooh, that's a lot of sisses. So you're also doing a book signing.
Yeah.
That's exciting. You're also an author on top of a tabletop board game, tabletop game designer and narrative designer, video game writer. How has your time at Gen Con as an author, how has that influenced your writing or your interaction with your fans? What's that been like with your author hat on?
I've learned a bunch of just professional tricks for shows from other authors who are there, who are, full-time fiction folk, and the way they approach their business and the way they set up the deals they get. They are very generous with their knowledge of the business and their time in the business. And so I very much appreciate that. And that has been a tremendous help to me. It's less about the craft and more about the business, honestly, in a lot of cases. But, I can write the best thing in the world. If it stays on my hard drive, nobody cares.
But true.
I do.
Yep. Yeah, that is very, very true. So for people who aren't able to make it to Gen Con, I mean, we talk about all these amazing things that are happening, the fun stuff, the milkshakes, the board games, the late nights out. But people who can't make it, are there things that they can do to offset that FOMO? Do you know of any ways they can still interact with the convention?
Most of the folks who are going to be there are going to be social mediaing it like crazy. And in it, find the streams of the folks, find the feeds of the folks who you are interested in, and get involved. Yeah. Even if it's just a thumbs up or looks like fun, get yourself in that conversation in a positive way. Yeah. And if you know something about Indianapolis, say, hey, have you tried this restaurant? Who knows? Maybe, you'll make a friend for a good recommendation.
There you go. Cool. So, tough question.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite part of Gen Con? What are you looking forward to the most?
Randomly running into cool people in hallways.
There you go. Put that on a t-shirt.
As the floor terrifies me at this point. I need to pull out Sting and wander around with the light, from the blade leading me to the lemonade stand or whatever. It is overwhelming. And as much as I love seeing all the new stuff that's out there in board games and role-playing games and card games and accessories, it's almost a little overwhelming. I love talking to people there, but the thing that really makes me happy is just accidentally running to somebody in the hallway whom I haven't seen in 15 years and say, hey, let's catch up. What cool thing are you doing?
Got to pay attention, wandering down the hallway. Keep an eye out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're kind of drawing close to the end. I guess let's bring it all to a head here with the idea of, again, those young designers, those young writers who are coming to the convention with the hope of learning something or connecting with someone. I don't want to say advice still. It's like, what's the mindset they should enter into Gen Con with?
This is something I tell people on all levels of the industry. Own your awesome. Have respect for yourself, for your talent. Understand that you deserve to be there, that you deserve to be taken seriously, that you deserve to have these conversations. Don't be starstruck. Don't put yourself down. I know too many folks who come into a conversation, start by denigrating themselves and their work. And that's not that's self-defeating. You have an opportunity. Why waste it on saying you're not good enough? Because you are good enough. Your work will speak for itself. If you have put the time and the energy and the love and the skill into it, it will speak for itself. And you know what? If it needs work, and everybody's stuff needs work. Nobody writes perfect stuff first draft except Harry Turtlelove. That's okay. That's fine. Do not take it personally. Understand that the professional advice you get is meant to make your stuff better. It is meant for you to pick up and make a part of your arsenal and go forward with so you can do better craft, so you can make better work, so you can harness your creativity in a way that brings more joy to more people. but go in there proud of yourself, brave, willing to do the work, and ready to do it for yourself. Nobody is going to reach down and say, here, have a hand up. Your congratulations, welcome to the top of Mount Olympus. You have to do the work for yourself, but you are worthy of that work. You are worthy of putting that effort into. And that covers everything from showing your stuff off to signing up for portfolio reviews to going up to some folks who are sitting there drinking and saying, excuse me, do you mind if I join you? And if they say no, you walk off, and they say yes. Hey, you're in a great conversation. But always, always, always trust that you have the right to be there and that you are worthwhile and that your work will speak for itself.
That's some solid advice.
Well, thank you.
I'm going to I think that might be the place to close up the Gen Con stuff and move towards the fun stuff to get us out the door. But first, is there anything else about the convention that you think we should mention or touch on quick?
It is a wonderful experience. There is something to be said for just sort of marinating in that many people with the shared interest and feeling at home with that kind of crowd. It has being part of that kind of energy. So if you do get a chance, I do highly recommend going. Excuse me.
Oh, bless you. All right, well, we're going to start heading towards the door. I've had you answer my core question before, and it wasn't terribly long ago. Did you want to take another shot at it, see if you've changed, or want to rip it up? All right. Well, as we've discussed before, my philosophical question at the heart of this podcast is my theory that there's a magical space that exists at the intersection of story and game, but also includes board game design, comic book writing, improv, blah, blah, blah. All of these creative fields where we can all just hang out, shared community, a fellowship, a language. If you agree with my theory, and not everybody does, but if you do, what is the magical thread that holds this space together?
We are all seeking the optimal player experience. That is what we're after. I have, for 25 years, said there is no conflict between gameplay and narrative. They are both intertwined aspects of the player experience and should support one another. Synergistically, they create something more than either and create something better for the player. Excuse me. A great story that shows off game mechanics and lets the player use them in a way that makes them feel good about themselves and feel powerful is worth its weight in gold. A game where the story is seamlessly integrated and the fantasy of the narrative is aligned seamlessly with the fantasy of the player, that's gold. And, we get those every so often to greater or lesser extent. But that, I think, is what we should always be striving for, to get to that place where everything is in harmony so that the person at the end of the line who buys the game or the book or the board game or the RPG, whatever, has the best experience possible.
That's a fucking brilliant answer. Why didn't you give me that one last time?
I'm going to tell you everything first time. I'm not a cheap date, man.
Make me work for shit. What's that about? All right. That's a good answer, though. In all very much seriousness, that's a really good answer. I'm putting that on the top 10. That's really good. Okay. Quick fire questions to head us out the door. What are you reading right now?
Reading a bunch of horror comics, actually. I'm working my way through the back end of The Sixth Gun by Cullen Bunn. I just picked up one from my friendly local comic shop, which is about the last Catholic priest in the Galactic Empire who has to go do an exorcism. I got a few more recommended to me. And I'm reading, I read The Nice House on the Lake duology, which was fantastic. Something is Killing the Children, also fantastic. I'm about to start digging into Immortal Hulk, which I have a little trepidation about because I got into Hulk in the days when Hulk consisted of the Hulk wanders around Arizona, the army comes to stop him with something stupid, Hulk beats up the army and says, why not leave Hulk alone?
Yeah.
And that was my Hulk growing up.
Mm-hmm.
The Mandroid and the Bi-Beast and all the crazy stuff, the UFOs and, digging too deep a cut there. But in any case, I've heard wonderful things about Immortal Hulk as a horror comic. And so I'm looking forward to opening that door.
Nice. What are you playing right now?
This is where the secret comes out.
Oh.
I am working on a card game. And I designed it. I did the first pass design many years ago, basically on a dare from game writer Jeremy Bernstein. It is called Squatches and Scotches. It's about going off in the woods to drink your scotch, and then Bigfoot shows up and drinks your scotch out from under you. It may be a little humorous, but I have been that sat in mothballs for many years, and I've taken it out and polishing it again, and hoping to get someone to publish it. And the playtests have gone very well. People really seem to have a good time with it. And, it's my two real areas of interest, Sasquatch and single malt scotch. If we could add baseball, it would be perfect. But
I was going to say, I can't think of a game that's more Richard Dansky than Sasquatches and Scotch. So that's incredible.
Well, thank you. Well, hopefully, knock on wood, there'll be good news about it one of these days.
You let me know. We'll talk about Sasquatches and Scotches for a whole hour.
Okay, sounds good.
Besides game design and writing, what other hobbies, and besides cryptids, what other hobbies consume your time?
I love reading, obviously. I'm a little bit of a book collector. My house is a library with a Scotch collection and a cat. Unfortunately, we lost one of my cats last week, so that is very, very sad, unfortunately. He was a good boy. He's just very old. But I still have Goblin, the chunky empress of the downstairs. And Goblin and I will watch baseball together. She won't watch football. She won't watch hockey. She won't watch basketball. But she will watch baseball with me. And I have the sneaky suspicion she's a Milwaukee Brewers fan. Which is but yeah, no, I'll sit down. I'll turn on a baseball game. And she'll jump up next to me, scrunch up against my hip, put one paw on my knee, and then demand tummy scritches. And we will watch baseball together. We give each other tummy scritches. So I love watching baseball with or without my cat. I am part of a mini season ticket package for the Durham Bulls right here in Durham, North Carolina. Baseball was always a language my dad and I could speak. A couple years before he died, we went on a week-long trip to spring training, took a bunch of ball games, and that was one of the greatest memories of my life. So baseball, very much a thing for me. Beyond that, I write so much. And, I do a bunch of stuff with the North Carolina chapter of the Horror Writers Association. I'm part of a local writers group that I attend occasionally. And I've got, okay, this is going to sound like I'm bragging, but I'm sorry. Right now, I got a half dozen stories in submission, 2 novels in submission publisher, querying some agents, working on a top secret project, pitching a nonfiction project. Yeah.
Do you sleep at all?
No, I don't actually. I got a terrible case of insomnia.
Oh, well,
yeah.
That joke went flat, didn't it?
Yes. It's okay.
I just walked into that wall.
Yeah. You okay?
I'll be all right. I'll be all right. What's last quick fire, and then we're going to start wrapping this up. What's one thing about you that people may not know or may surprise people?
Oh, this is funny. I just posted a 10 things you may not know about me on Facebook. But so okay, let's see what's a good one. I have jumped naked into the Bay of Finland twice. In 2000, I went to the Finnish convention, Europacon, which was a glorious time. They took great care of me. And I had a total blast there. Highly recommend it to anyone. But the end of the convention, there's the after party, which was held on a campus of a university in Helsinki. And this being Finland, they of course have a sauna. And my friends, they're like, "Hey, Rich, you gonna sauna with us? You gonna sauna with us?" I'm like, "Sure, yeah." And they said, "It's naked, right? This is Finland. No bathing suits." Whatever. I'm here. And I just finished up a ridiculously grueling video game project. My mother was ill. I had just broken up with a long-term girlfriend. It was, I was in a state of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure, whatever. We'll do this. And so I end up in the sauna with a bunch of naked people beating each other over the back with birch switches and occasionally pouring water on hot rocks. And then, my brain is melting and running in my ears while they're explaining all the customs to me. And finally say, hey, you want to go cool off? We're going to go for a swim. Okay. And they start running out, and we run out, and I follow them, and we run through the middle of the party, and at this point, voice in the back of my head is going, you just ran through a party naked. You know that, dude. But, no time to think, and we go, and we run to a pier, we jump out the pier, and we jump into the Bay of Finland.
Ooh. How cold was that?
It was August, but it was still pretty goddamn cold. So we get in there, and we splash around, and we go back, and we troop through the party, still naked, to get back in the sauna, because that is what you do. And one of the convention organizers, very nice gentleman, stops me. And first he apologizes because they didn't actually have fresh birch switches. You're supposed to have fresh birch switches to beat yourself with to improve the circulation. And the ones they had were freeze-dried and had to be reconstituted with water, and he was very apologetic. I'm like, I'm not a birch switch connoisseur. You seem to be doing the job just great. No worries, dude. And then he wanted to talk to me about his vampire campaign. And he had some questions about his vampire campaign. So, we're talking back and forth. I'm giving him advice and things like that. And meanwhile, the little voice in the back of my head has woken up, possibly in my shadow. And it says, dude, you know that dream you have where you're at a party and you're naked? This is it. This is it. We finished that conversation. We're back in the sauna. We ran back out, jumped into the Bay of Finland again, and we went onto the pier to take a group picture for some unknown reason. And I didn't realize the pier was a floating pier. So we all get at the end of the pier to take the picture, and suddenly everybody's feet get wet as it starts sinking. And that was the end of that adventure. But
wow.
You need to cut that? Do I need to come up with something that's a little more PG?
Not even a little bit. You're the first person to make me laugh until I actually have tears on this show. You've had some adventures.
I have indeed seen some shit.
Okay, well, let's start heading out the door. Before we do, I'd like to open up a little space to talk about what you might be working on or want to promote that you've done in recently. Is there anything you want to signal boost?
My last book, Meeting Devil's House, is still out there. It's got wonderful reviews. People seem to really enjoy it. So if you dig man-eating Sasquatches in top hats, invisible spiders, all sorts of fun stuff like that, that's the book for you. Zombie frogs. Can't forget the zombie frogs, based on true story. And more recently, I had a story coming out in the Writer Symposium Anthology at Gen Con, which I'm very excited about. Mm-hmm. So that's with some wonderful people, some authors I'm really honored to share space with. And that's a story called Kicking Santa's Ass, inspired by the time I played Santa Claus at a bunch of parties in South Philadelphia as a 15-year-old skinny Jewish kid from the suburbs. That did not go well.
Just casually throw out these things that are like,
well, these are all stories for when we sit down and actually have a drink. And I also said a story in Sudden Fictions, which is the latest story of the Reb Palash character, whom I've been writing for a while and people seem to really like. So check that out. It's free. Mm-hmm. And I sold a new story to Cinepod, which is my favorite market, a wonderful horror fiction podcast. And I am, as always, honored to be part of their rotation.
Nice. I will throw links to all of this down in the doobly-doo.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
So, that's it. It is time for us to head out before things explode and everything comes crashing down about our heads. But as we head out the door, do you have any parting words of wisdom? I would love to give you the last word.
Find joy. Find the stuff that gives you joy and do it unashamedly. And doesn't matter if it's books that people with us think are weird, games other people don't like. You take joy in it. That is the most precious thing in the world.
Well, Traveler, as much as I've enjoyed our time together, I'm afraid I must close the tavern early tonight. It seems a mischievous sprite has decided to host an impromptu dance party with the local fae folk. We should probably get out of their way. But before we head out the door, once again, thank you to Richard for your illuminating insights into the whole thing that is Gen Con. And as always, to you, dear listener, thank you for taking your spot at the table. Until we meet again, remember to keep creating, exploring, and sharing your stories with the world. Stay safe out there, Wanderer. Your chair will be ready by the fire the next time you stop in at the corner of Story and Game.